You're listening to RIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out RIARadio.com.
I feel like there's two groups of people. There's people that watch one YouTube video and then they're ready to go do a real estate deal or flip a house. Mm-hmm. And then there's analysis paralysis for years and years before they never do a deal. Honestly, the way I buy deals is like people bring deals to me or an opportunity comes, and if I can structure it zero down and it still cash flows and I have the ability to manage it, like I'm typically going to buy it.
Dude, I know. I'm looking at you, man. Like, I'm 24. This was not on my radar at all, like anywhere close to it. 24 years old and you're poo-pooing a business that nets you $150K. That is insane.
Welcome to RIA Radio, episode 202 whoop, whoop, with Tucker Pinyan. The crowd goes wild.
Hey, just past opening day for baseball too.
Is it really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
The crowd goes wild. Tucker, welcome to the show, man. I'm so excited that you agreed to come in here after me pestering you about a month and a half ago. And we have a reunion of sorts here that I didn't realize. Yeah. You and Tedison over here.
We got some history, don't you know?
Yeah. I totally forgot about this, but you worked for a business for a hot minute.
I did.
Along with Ted, associated with
I was
Ted.
more like the marketing side of it at that point, yes.
I worked for Slick Construction.
No, you were VP, weren't you? Isn't that what
that was reinvesting capital.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, I worked for Slick Construction. Really like my first career, I guess you'd say.
First job.
Yeah, I remember seeing Ted going there on just a listing, and I saw him one other time. But I didn't think he'd remember.
That's like COVID time frame.
Yeah, right in COVID. Yeah,
I was looking for any excuse to get the hell out of the. I'm like, I'm an official employee where I can go drive around and go visit places.
Right.
What they call essential.
You were trying to skirt the rules on that the whole time.
Yeah, every minute of that.
So Tucker, what was now the business that you worked for? That was remodeling primarily, right? Remodeling new construction.
It was, yeah. Which actually didn't start like that. I went to the Nebraska Maintenance Academy in Omaha.
Okay.
And they place you in a job. It's a 12-week program.
Kind of like a trade school.
Right.
Yep.
Well, it's specifically like maintenance, and they want to place you with an apartment complex where you do maintenance. So I was initially supposed to work with Orange Property Management.
Okay.
And then since I was based out of Lincoln, they didn't have a lot of units, there to manage. So they put me on that project in Lincoln, just the 40th and Holdridge there, that complex.
Oh, you did that with Ray.
I did, yes.
Ray retired.
Really?
Yeah, he invested his whole entire life savings in retirement into Tesla stock.
Did he?
Right before it blew up to the max. And then he cashed out millions and millions of dollars.
Is that true?
Yes.
Wow. I'd say he sold it at the right time, considering things are aflame with Tesla.
He popped like $800,000 into it. It cashed in his 401k that he was sitting on. Put it all in the Tesla stock in probably a year and a half, 2 years before it went big. And then it maxed out almost right at the top. He cashed out of it.
Oh my goodness,
dude! Is
he still in Omaha?
That is a ballsy move, man. With retirement.
No, he used the money to build a house in Florida, and retired to Florida and lives on the ocean. And I think it was close to $10 million.
Good for him.
I love hearing stuff like that because normally it's the exact opposite. People were like, "Oh yeah, I bought at an all-time high and then I lost everything or lost most of my retirement." Like that's so cool. Good for him.
Yeah,
wow,
good story there.
Real American hero.
He was my boss. Wow,
cool. So what was trade school like? Like wind us back to high school. You're an athlete, probably picking up all kinds of women. Yep.
Yeah. So the story is
true. Okay.
Yeah. No, in high school, I guess my senior year, I actually also enlisted in the National Guard, as well as committed to play basketball at Peru State College. The story is I graduate in May. I leave for boot camp in June. Training lasts about 6 months. And I start the second semester, really, of my freshman year going to college there at Peru State and just playing basketball like that. I did it because I want to pay for college. National Guard covered 75%. I got scholarship, for the rest of the tuition. So
cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
And how long were you in National Guard?
6 years. I did my 6.
Yeah.
And got out.
Did you have any deployments while you were in?
I didn't. No. And
you sound like you're like, I wish I did. You're like,
I mean,
no, I didn't.
no, I mean, it would have been a good experience, I guess. But yeah, I kind of had a lot going on back home. You know, I wanted to get into real estate, and especially towards the end there when I was, deep in it, deep into the real estate game, then I was glad that I was kind of staying home.
Yeah,
but,
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never asked anybody this before. My dad was in the National Guard, and he did his 6 as well. And do you ever get any like shade or kind of like implied shade from people that saw some stuff over there? They're like, "Oh, that's cute. You're in the National Guard."
A little bit from that and the Air Force, because if you don't know, the Air Force is like kind of the weakest branch, they say.
Yeah.
Like basic training really wasn't all that difficult for me. I was an athlete in high school, so it was kind of a breeze going through that training for me. So yeah, they call it the Chair Force, and yeah.
The Chair Force.
Right. Yeah. So
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So, I mean, so both of those things, but I mean, during basic, training, you're going through training and, you go to tech school after that, but it was, you're in the training, it's difficult. And people at the time who went active duty, signed the contract, were kind of like, what is the National Guard? You only work one weekend a month. How do I switch over?
How do I do that?
Right. So they were like, can I get out of my contract? But yeah, it was a good experience.
I played baseball for a junior college in Iowa, and I kind of always had felt like that when talking with athletes that played for a 4-year school or like a larger university. It's kind of like, where'd you play? And I'm like, Southwestern Community College. And like, that's cute. Pat me on the head. Like, you know what I mean? I was just picturing that because you talked about being an athlete, and anyway.
I feel like I played them at Peru State.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah.
Probably.
I pitched against Peru State a couple of times. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Dominated them.
I thought it sounded familiar. I think they were good in terms of basketball.
I didn't even know Peru State was a college yet by the time, back in those days.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it was the first college in Nebraska.
Exactly.
I rode a horse and carriage to school. No, the quick funny. So I remember I was pitching against Peru State, and I went out and I think we got beat. We were playing a doubleheader and we got beat the first game, and our coach was pissed, and he was a real hothead. And I went out and I walked the first 2 hitters, and I remember him screaming to our catcher, like, "Go out there and punch him in the head or something." Because we did a visit to the mound. He walked out and he's all mad. And I'm just like, good God, man, I'm trying. You think I want to throw balls? Like what? Right. Anyway, yeah. So, okay, you finished trade school, got into the 155th refueling wing. Do I get that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's just a refueling wing. That's the base in Lincoln. That's what they specialize in. So people go there and fly over to refuel their jets or whatever. And I got to be honest, I don't know a lot about it. My job was just shipping plane parts to where they need to go. So played a pretty small part in it. Not a pilot or anything like my grandma thinks, I guess. But
hey, just let her keep living that.
Yeah.
My son was a pilot. You don't correct her at all.
Yeah,
that's great.
So yeah.
Okay, so you were involved in more or less supply chain
logistics.
Yeah, logistics, supply chain, and then got your job. Went through trade school specifically for maintenance. Landed with a construction company. Mm-hmm. What happened after that?
Yeah, so about a couple months in, I always had the real estate bug. And actually, right when I started attending Peru State was when I bought my first house in Peru.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're 24 now, right?
Right.
And so you would have been, what, 19, 20-ish?
I was 18.
18?
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, my birthday's in April. I bought it like January 8th.
April
27th. 2000.
Ted's birthday's in April.
I know we're going to be brothers.
he wanted to work that in there. Okay, so how did you have the real estate bug when you were 18 years old?
So growing up, my dad bought a six-plex when I was about 11 years old. And so he bought that one when I was about 11. And then about a year later, bought another six-plex. And then a few years after that, bought 2 more. So I grew up kind of mowing the lawn, doing, basic maintenance. That was kind of my entrance into it. And I knew I wanted to do something in real estate. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the path that was, but I had an interest in it. So yeah, once I was towards the end of my training, which I was going to go back, to Peru and start going to college, I started shopping for houses just on Zillow. And you get a lot of cash when you are in the military. Your housing's paid for. Not a lot, sorry. Your housing's paid for, your food's paid for, and you're getting a small paycheck. So you don't really have any expenses. So you build up a decent sized paycheck. Most people go buy a brand new car, right out of the military. So I had, about 10 grand or so. So I buy this house. It was just $19,000. I partnered with my dad. We each put in 10 grand. And
so you bought it cash.
Bought it cash. Yep. Mm-hmm. It needed some work. So then we went and got it appraised and pulled out some cash. It appraised at like 45. And so we pulled 33 grand and then remodeled it with that.
This is insane because you would think that we're interviewing somebody, that's been doing it for 30 years. Like, Loretta, when she was talking about her first purchase was 15 grand.
At these prices, yeah.
He did this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That's insane. So, okay, you bought a house for 19, did more or less refinance right away, pulled some money back out,
right.
And then started working on it, right? Did your dad help, or was he kind of like, okay, big boy?
Yeah, I was doing kind of all the work. The first semester, I just mainly did demo, and then that summer, after the school year, I did the full remodel. Just with a guy from our church, we renovated the house.
Okay, so what'd you do with the house?
Then the following school year, I just house hacked it. So it was 4 bedrooms. I rented out 3 of the bedrooms, $400 a month. On the $30,000 mortgage, my payment was about $286 P&I.
Dang.
Taxes were under $500 a year.
And no city rental inspections or anything like that, because you're in a
No.
small town.
Right, very small town. And so it was a cash flow crazy house. My first house, and that's how I got started, I guess.
This is great because, as listeners know, we had Brandon Turner on for our 200th episode, which was a big deal. And he was talking before we hit record about a lot of stuff going on right now that's making it really difficult to operate cash flowing rentals or to get them to cash flow at all. So he was talking about some ideas that he's looking into to basically squeeze out some additional cash flow, including something called pad split, which is basically rent by the room. Right. And
right.
That's essentially what a college rental is, and
yeah.
which is more or less what you were doing, although
right.
you were comboing it with a house hack, which is a baller move. Now, my first thing about college rentals is what happens during the summer? Like,
yeah, so,
what is that like?
Right. So when I ran my numbers, I only accounted for about 9 months of rental income. We had a few tenants who worked in maybe Auburn or Nebraska City, and they wanted to stay, but other than that, it's vacant for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you just underwrite it knowing that, okay, I bought this really cheap. I'm going to cash flow like a monster for
right.
9 months out of the year, and then I'll just eat it for 3 months because it'll all come out in the end.
Exactly.
Wash. Yeah. No, that's cool. Okay, so you did that. Did you have any drama with any of your quote unquote roommates / tenants?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And really when I was going to be, I guess, the owner and rent out these other bedrooms, I didn't want them to know that I was the owner. So I essentially said, my dad's the owner. I have nothing to do with this place. I don't want to be chasing down rent.
Yeah.
I don't want to be dealing with them. So that was my mindset behind it. It's like, you pay my dad. I'm not the owner of this place.
Okay. And so was your dad kind of the de facto maintenance call? Like, was he the guy, the contact person? So something's wrong. It's your dad. He fields the call. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to dispatch my maintenance man. And then you go in the other room and grab a hammer and with a hat.
No, that's essentially what it was. We didn't have a ton of maintenance. It was a newly remodeled house, But yeah, we had a few instances. I remember just the glass on the front of the stove being shattered.
House party?
No, it just happened randomly. That's what my tenants say.
That's what he said. Yeah.
The shower door just broke. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Hung a towel.
It was the same shape as one of the tenants' knees, weirdly enough. So, we lived with, it was like this guy who was very, very quiet. I guess he was called the nerd, not by me, but by one of the other tenants. And yeah, we kind of asked him, I asked one of the tenants who was the noisy one, like, what happened to the stove? He's like, I don't know. The nerd did it, I think. And that's all I heard from it. We never figured it out, but he was the problem. We had to get him out.
Did you just live with him
until the end of the semester? And then we were like, we can't do this. But yeah, it was one of those when we got him in there, like I posted this for rent on Facebook. And then he wanted the unit super bad. He's like, yeah, I just got recruited to Peru. I'm driving from Pennsylvania right now, and I want to rent this unit. And drives up in a Chevy Trailblazer with a mattress on top of the car, and then pays me $1,700. She's like, I'll pay the full semester up front. It's like, yeah, I thought it was great at the time, but yeah, he was a problem.
Have you ever had anybody since then, and we'll get into obviously your later investments, but have you ever had anybody offer to pay you cash up front again since that time?
I don't know that I have, no.
Ted, have you ever done that? You ever taken like a full year's rent or anything like that?
No, never.
So I had this, I haven't done this very often, maybe twice, and it's ended badly both times. Oh man, I don't know if I should say this or not. I'm going to say it, whatever. There was something that happened several years back. It was a amusement park, kind of one of those pop-up type ones that I think was in South Omaha. So they have rides and stuff, it's like a carnival or carnival or whatever. And this girl, I think she was a teenager, if I remember right. She somehow, I think, was on a roller coaster, or maybe it was a merry-go-round.
Some of the girl got scalped.
Yes.
Yes.
So they got a huge settlement out of this deal from, I guess, the insurance company for the thing.
She was on the twirl around.
Twirl around?
Yeah, the thing, like you sit on there and it goes around in circles.
Yeah.
And her hair got caught in it and it peeled her whole head back.
Yeah. So anyway, they got a huge lawsuit and then paid a year up front. I'm going to leave the details out, but they were not good tenants as far as housekeeping goes. So
those were your tenants?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
For a year, maybe 2 years. And but generally speaking, the reason why it's not a good idea with that is because most people don't do that. And there's usually a reason. And if you try and listen to what they're saying, you can generally figure out there's probably something shady going on. Not in this case. I'm not saying they were shady people at all, but they just weren't good housekeepers.
So what's the best bet? You like,
but a lot of times it's like people that are drug dealers, or they're operating in cash businesses that aren't legal of some type. So they have a lot of cash and they're hoping to overcome. That's their trump card that says, hey, I know my credit score isn't great, but I have a year's worth of rent or 6 months worth of rent.
I did that. I was in a rental house and I paid a whole year up front.
You did?
Yeah, because I had a lump sum money come in.
This proves my point. Here.
I refinanced the house. I had a house I was paying for my grandma. I refinanced it. I had that money. I was like, hey, I just want to pay you the whole year right now up front.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just easier, so I wouldn't forget.
Well, Ted just proved my point.
And I was very clean.
Okay, so your first foray was a house hack / student rental combo. And then what happened next? So did you have the bug at this point?
Right. I think I had it all along. I just didn't know kind of what direction to go. Well, a year later, we find this house on auction.com.
You and your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Peru. And
you really like these small towns.
Well, I was going to college there. That's all I knew, So it was cheap enough price point that I'm like, I can start buying here.
You can take some punches when you're buying it at $19K. Right.
Yeah, and they cash flow great. I mean, I tell people like liquidating might not be that easy, and they're difficult to sell at times. But if you want to retire and get cash flow instantly, like small towns is probably a way to go.
I totally agree with what you're saying. Growing up in a small town, especially, like, they're harder to sell. They take longer. You're not going to get wild swings in appreciation like you would in major metro areas. But the cash flow is really good if you work it right.
And if you're in a college town like Peru, I mean, isn't your business kind of seasonal, or how did you work around that?
Well, basically 9 months out of the year, we had tenants, essentially. I mean, like I said earlier.
You wouldn't make them sign a 12-month lease?
No.
Okay.
Just through the school year, yeah. What is that? August, May.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it just sat vacant otherwise?
Sometimes. I mean, there was times, I think most of the time we have at least one who was like working in a town close by, and then they would stay through the summer.
Did you ever have any break-ins or vandalism or theft that happened while it was vacant?
We never had any, no.
Okay. All right. So I wasn't planning on this, but let's do a thought experiment here. So let's say you are a thief and you're all about going out and stealing copper and whatever else, and you want to target homes. This is a PSA. We're thinking like thieves here. Like, if it were me, I would look for open houses, known vacant properties. Like, if I'm in a college town like that I know houses are vacant in, I mean, you could probably clean up there unless there's security systems. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's more eyes, I think, out. Neighbors are actually watching out for each other, I think, more in a small town versus in the city.
That's true.
Like, our neighbor
Kravitz.
lived there for forever, and she had a lot to say throughout the years that.
Ugh. Yeah.
Like whatever. What's the county plate in that town?
44.
It's like, oh, it's not a 44 county plate. That's a 1.
Right.
They're from Omaha or Lincoln.
Yeah,
or that's a 9.
Bad news.
Those Carnians are coming.
Those big city folk.
Right.
Okay, so you bought the second one, and did that go according to plan?
Yeah, I mean, we were the only bidders at the auction there, so we won it for, I think, again, $34,000. It appraised right away at like 70. And we pulled out some cash and started renting it out.
Nice. So auction.com, is this an online bidding? I've been on there before. I don't think I've ever bought anything, but do you have to show up in person?
I've done both. They have both. Yeah. So actually my dad is more in line with auction.com. It seems like he scrolls through that thing like Facebook, like just on a daily basis. I think there's a little bit more competition, and it's a little bit more difficult to get deals. And then you can't control it either based on, like, if you're marketing, you can increase your marketing spend and get more deals. So it's not scalable, I guess, but
good for one-off deals here and there, right?
Right. Yeah. So we've done both, where you bid online and then they pretty much just mail you the deed, and then where you go in person and bid. The one in Peru, we went in person, but I bought one online.
Now, okay, having a little bit of experience in buying stuff at auction, what are the pros and cons of doing that?
Online or just
either? Like, let's say you're just buying something at auction. You didn't, actually, let me ask you this: did you have a chance to walk the property?
We didn't. No.
Okay, so you bought it sight unseen. Maybe you saw the exterior, but you didn't
just
get it
enough to look in the windows. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So obviously, if we're going down this path, the big risk is you don't know what you don't know because you haven't been inside it. So there could be all kinds of stuff.
That's right.
Why do that? Why go that route?
Well, we saw that in this particular one in Peru that we could get it for, the opening bid was 33 and we didn't think that anyone would bid on it. And so we thought if we could get it for that price, we thought it'd be a good deal. And then, looking into the windows, didn't look too bad. And one thing, we knew someone was recently living in there. So if they're recently living in there and they were employed by the university that had passed away, that it can't be that bad, if they're, everything has to be working. The
famous last words. No, I'm kidding. No, that's good though. And I don't know if you've done this. So how many do you think you've bought over the years off auction?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot. It's been like 3 or 4.
There's some other sites you should check though, like HUDHomestore.com.
Really?
Hubzoo
and XOME.com. I bought more off that for clients than in any other site as far as auction sites go.
Okay, so you represent your clients.
Yeah. So all those sites you can have an agent, and then so like on Zome and HUD Store, they actually will pay your agent commissions.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting.
During like 2008 to 10, there was a whole bunch of foreclosures during the Great Financial Crisis, right? And that was a way more popular way of acquiring stuff at the time because there were a ton of REOs that were bank owned, and I was on there a lot. Like really? I bought a few off of there, but not a ton or anything because it was super competitive. And it was interesting though because you can kind of like, it's like eBay or you go and bid on something and you're kind of like waiting. You're like, oh man, can I get it? And then people like wait until the last minute and jump the bid by $100 or whatever. Yeah. And it's fun, but it's risky and because you haven't been inside the house. Although I have been known to see if windows are open and maybe I can get in with a credit card. I've done that. I almost got a trespassing ticket 2 times where I had an actual cop come by and be like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, oh, I'm a real estate investor. I'm, going to be buying this house, whatever. And like, it was a little, he was looking at me definitely like I was a sketchy mofo, but it didn't get a ticket, thankfully, at least as far as I know.
One secret too is I know that on the Zome site, we didn't saw anybody bidding on it. We purposely put a bid that was lower than the minimum listed bid because in the end the bank could review it and make the final decision if they wanted to give it to you or not. I remember there's a house, it was down by the zoo, and we're looking at it, and I think the bid on it was like 40,000. We didn't get it. It kept on relisting, and then they kept on dropping it, even though our bids on the previous bids were higher, and they didn't take it. But in the end, I think we got this one house for like, I don't remember, 40,000. Wow. And the minimum bid was 50. But at another point, we offered 60,000, 3 bids ago, and they didn't take it. And in the end, they took it for like 35.
Didn't know you could see the amount of bidders on there. That's nice.
Doesn't that make you wonder, like, who the hell is in charge over there? Like, you know what I mean? If I'm just imagining somebody that's like in an administrative role, and they're like, okay, I'm going to check the bids today. And then there's one from, $20,000 higher, and they're like, okay, it's time to reduce. We didn't get that one sold. And then you drop it to like 40. Wouldn't the first thing you did be to go back and see who bid more than that? Right. And be like, hey, good news. Yeah. You can still buy this for $55,000 or whatever. I think, like, why doesn't that hapen? It's so dumb.
The only thing I can think of is that every time it gets relisted up, it's probably the company's so big. There's a different person representing putting the listing up, and they don't have an idea. It's not the same representative going all the way through. On
Too many people. They're not tied to it, so they don't really care.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gaining some momentum here. You bought your second one. What happened next?
Yeah, that's when I dropped out of college and started going to the Nebraska Maintenance Academy. It was right around COVID time. And I thought, college, it wasn't really for me. It didn't really interest me. I want to do something with my hands. I want to get into real estate and flip houses. And, just through Google, I stumbled across the Nebraska Maintenance Academy. And so, stopped going to college and just went straight into the Nebraska Maintenance Academy.
And did they teach you there basically a lot of break fix stuff for residences? Is that kind of the gist
most
of
it all? Yeah, fixing furnaces, flame sensor, all small stuff. Fixing toilets. So it's just basic plumbing.
Handyman boot camp.
Yes. Yep. And it's in class. Like you have some hands-on stuff, but you learn most of the stuff once you get to your job placement.
Mm-hmm. And now looking back, knowing what you know now, do you think that was a good use of your time? Like, would you go back and if I'm an 18-year-old kid, I'm listening to this episode and I'm like, man, I don't know. College is like I can go, but I don't really want to. I want to learn some like applicable skills. Do you think that was a good move?
I think it was great. I mean, the school's free if you commit to your one job placement, your 1 year. So it's like, that was amazing to me.
Yeah.
It seems like everything I wanted, I don't have to pay for it. I'm going to college where my tuition's free at that point due to the military, but I'm paying for room and board and stumble across this and free of charge. That was awesome to me.
This is incredible, actually. Like, I really, really, really wish more people took this route because we wouldn't be in such a dire need of like people that are skilled in trades right now, which we are.
I heard of this program, but I didn't realize that if you worked at a place for a year that you didn't pay for it.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That's really cool, man. Okay, so let's dig into what happened next in the Pinyan portfolio.
Yeah, so let's see here. I started, continued to listen to podcasts and get interested in real estate.
What were you listening to mainly?
Well, the Wholesaling podcast was probably the biggest one I listened to because when I was working at that complex at 40th and Holdridge, it was mainly demo. Headphones in all day, so I consumed.
Oh yeah, that's
8
great.
hours a day, just podcasts all day. It was great. So yeah, I was inspired. I was ready to do something, and just really a couple months into working there, I started just marketing, sending out direct mail, not knowing what I was doing, but generating leads. Yeah, it started there. I didn't really know what I was doing still, just getting calls. It's hard because you don't know what you're doing in the beginning. You don't know how to make an offer, what you're looking at.
What was your first appointment like?
Ooh, I remember just walking.
You always remember your first.
Yeah, I don't know. I was making random conversation just because I didn't know anything.
Nervous.
I didn't know anything about real estate. Yeah. And I remember actually going to the basement and looking at the electrical panel and saying, "Nice electrical panel." And I think about like, what the hell what was I thinking? Who compliments someone electrical panel? Like, because I didn't know what
thanks, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's real nice. It's going to cost you extra too.
Yeah. No, because I didn't know anything about, making an offer, and that's important, knowing your ARV, knowing your rehab costs. And I look back on that property. That was before I hired a mentor shortly after, because I offered him like $85,000.
Okay.
Because I was just super conservative. I didn't want to offer too much. And then fast forward a few months, I look back and I was like, I think I could have paid like 120 for that house. And an investor bought it for 120. Just 'cause I didn't know I was offering way too low.
Well, I guess that's better than the alternative, right? Yeah.
Right.
So, did you feel you're pretty well equipped to estimate rehab costs after going through your kind of foray into the boot camp of maintenance, or were you still kind of clueless?
I was better than I was, but I feel like even the best investors, I mean, that's things that
100%.
I mean, how many times do you not go over your rehab budget? I mean, it happens almost every time.
I don't think I've ever done a rehab budget on budget. Yeah. For real. Like I will get done and be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that thing.
Yeah,
that thing. There's always add-ons.
For some reason, whenever I was assessing it for clients, my numbers were like usually within 10%.
Really?
When I was doing it for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, because honestly, the tendency too is like you have a certain standard and you want your properties to be nice, and then you end up over improving. It's very, very common and very hard to not do that.
Wait, you hired a mentor. I don't want to glaze around. Who was the mentor? And
Josh Nix.
Josh Nix. Yeah, that's a great mentor to have. And what did he do for you?
Yeah, so helped with just that, evaluating properties. And I remember just as I was working that construction job and listening to those podcasts, hearing specifically on a podcast, to get into real estate, the best bet for yourself is to hire a local mentor. They're going to know the market. They're going to know everything about those specific deals that you're looking at. Because at the time I had bought in a couple online courses and, tried, and it wasn't really all that helpful. So yeah, I was, like I said, I had the foundation. I was generating leads. I hired Josh, and within a couple weeks I had a deal because I already was bringing in leads, and it just took that, his voice behind me to say, yeah, I mean, that's a deal. I was like, I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, oh man, that's invaluable though. Having like a backstop with somebody that knows their stuff and saying, yeah, do this. If you don't do it, I will.
Right.
Like that had to be pretty confidence inspiring. What does it cost for confidence then? If you had to go out and hire a mentor, like maybe we could,
or what did Josh cost?
Yeah. His at the time was $500 a month and half of all my deals.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. He came out firing with that negotiating.
Yeah, I was surprised, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this right now. I mean, I'm not making that much.
All your deals while you're coaching them?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
All wholesale
Josh.
deals.
Now, as a partner half, or like you always half the profit?
So half of all wholesale deals. So if I flip a house, and typically I would get the loan from him. I would flip it and I'd get all the profits on myself. But
there you go, Owen.
Hang on, I'm writing down a new business idea here. No, that's cool. But now I will say, that seems obviously at face value like a very steep price to pay for mentorship and certainty on, or at least, moderate certainty on deals. But the argument could be made, maybe you wouldn't have done a lot of those, and maybe you would have made a lot less money if you hadn't been involved. Is that
exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was well worth it. Not only that, but his connections over the years. I was able to tap into his network and instantly know all the people that he was connected with.
Here's my HVAC guy. Here's my attorney.
Right.
Here's my, yes.
So I don't have to go through and vet all these contractors. And yeah, it was great.
But how many times have you heard somebody say, hey, I signed up for this program. I spent $10, $20, $30, $50,000 for this program.
Yeah.
And you just sat in a room and had to write everything down. You didn't have that hands-on coach. Maybe you had a group call, but here you are, you got the resources. I mean, if you think about it the other way, you got the resources, you got the hands-on ability to find the deals, check your deals. I mean, in essence, it might have been the same amount of money, but I feel like it's a lot more of a safer bet.
You're right. Yeah, I had spent $1,500. I remember specifically $1,000 on other courses, but it's just the video course. And like I said, I'm getting the foundation. I'm learning how to market. But it's different when you're going and walking through these properties. You have to make an offer. That's the part that I wasn't able to connect at the time.
Yeah. No, I would say there's a definite premium on that. To your point, Ted, like if you just hire, somebody that's really good at the foundational aspects of either wholesaling or flipping or whatever it is, acquisitions, but they're national, and real estate is hyper local, as we all know. And hiring somebody to be your mentor in a local market where they can say, yes, that street is bad or this street is good, and yes, I would do that deal, that's irreplaceable. I mean, just getting, kind of the stamp of approval from somebody that knows their stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
He wasn't like marketing a course either. It's like I reached out to him and he's like, yeah, I'll do it for this. So it's like I knew that was genuine too. That it's like, there's a lot of ads out there of buy this course and do, hire this mentor, but he wasn't pushing that at all.
No, it's great tip.
Would you do that? If some random person gave you a call, maybe you're acquainted with them and said, hey, I'll pay you $500. I'll give you half the deal.
Now, was it, well, one point of clarification, was he at your beck and call? So $500, he'd answer the phone. Yeah, he'd be like, here's what you should offer. Here's what the ARV is, or like I'm double checking your ARV and it's good. Yeah, I would probably do that.
He would answer the phone.
I would probably do that.
If I was like, I remember because speed to lead was really important to me.
Yes.
I was like, I want to get to the appointment ASAP. So I remember several times just driving to an appointment, shooting him a text. What do you think about this address? He'd give me quick thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm. So now let's dig into this a little bit further. So you've been digesting a whole bunch of information from podcasts and online media about real estate investing while you're doing your maintenance job, which was a great move. I mean, Ted would have probably been listening to, who's the rapper that you were just telling me about?
Kid Cudi.
Yeah, Kid Cudi. Ted's probably listening to that at the time. So this is great use of your time.
Hey, I listened to a whole book yesterday. I made my goal to listen to one book in one day, and I did it yesterday.
Did it have pictures?
No, it was no.
How long was that book?
It was 7 hours and 32 minutes.
Jeez.
You did it on triple speed or what?
I did it on 2 times speed.
Okay,
yes.
so it took you about 3.5 hours.
Well, Ted's listening to the Chipmunks all day. Now, okay, so man, I love this. What I want to really dig into is you discovered that direct to seller marketing was a route that you wanted to pursue, and you mentioned that you sent out some direct mail. Was that your first foray into marketing, or did you have a website also? Did you do pay-per-click, SEO, any of that? Like if I'm 18, 20, 21, whatever, I'm a young guy and I'm like, or gal, and I want to get into this, what do you think you did right?
Yeah, direct mail is where it started. And okay. I had remember hearing also, like, there's a ton of marketing strategies. Every one works.
Yes.
Find one, master it, do that until you get a few deals under your belt, and then you can branch off from there. Mm-hmm. So I remember doing that. Yeah, it was tough in the beginning, like just getting phone. Well, honestly, I was afraid to answer the phone in the beginning.
You didn't know what to say.
Right. Like, how do I talk to you about a house that I've only ever bought one house, or for a lot of people, it's like, I've never bought a house, or done a deal before. So it's like tough to know what to say in the beginning. And so I was honestly like afraid to answer the phone because I didn't know what to say.
Did your age play a factor into your reluctance to take these type of calls where you felt like I'm talking to some dude that's 50 years old, like he knows way more than me about life and stuff in general? Did that play a factor as well?
It did a little bit. Yeah. Cause like I said, I didn't know what I was doing or much about real estate, but I'd also, what instilled some confidence in me was just other people through the podcast that I was listening to. I heard other 20-year-olds doing this. Mm-hmm. It's like, I can learn this, just through practice.
Yeah. So you knew it was possible. And I would say it's great that your dad, kind of introduced you to the world of that through his real estate activities, and you had him as a little bit of a sounding board as well.
Lifted you up.
Tucker, what really reminds me of the time, and you and I had coffee, what was that, like 4 years ago?
It's gotta be, yeah. It was like around when I first started.
Yeah, and I think if memory serves, so I went on this binge of coffee appointments, and I think I had published my calendar, and I was like, anybody that wants to have coffee Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm doing 104 coffees this year. And I think you grabbed one of those spots, and then we met. I didn't know you at all. Yeah. And then I started following you on social media, and we'll get into this in a minute. But I was really impressed with the initiative that you had, especially for a really young, you're still really young, but back then, you were like really, really young. And I was like, man, this kid's a hustler. Like, I really admired your drive and ambition and a lot of the stuff that you were doing to implement some tried and true practices, and you just believed. You believed in what you were doing. That really struck me with you. When I remember sitting down, I was like, this kid's got something. And he's like, I could tell you were going to do some stuff. So, okay. So digesting a whole bunch of podcasts, you hired a mentor that had local knowledge, which was a great move. You got exposure to direct to seller marketing, despite the fact that it's scary as hell to go out on these appointments on your own.
Right.
And how did you progress from there? Like what happened next? Did you try new marketing channels? Did you what was some tailwinds that you caught?
I pretty much stuck with direct mail. And I remember when I was working for Schlick Construction, I was trying to take these calls on the side when I did get an incoming call. And my project manager at the time, basically I took a call to go away from the job site for a little bit. And he essentially said, hey, when you're at work, you can't take these calls here. And so that was a little frustrating for me because, first of all, I'm scared.
That was definitely Ray for you.
Right. Yeah. First of all, I'm scared to take the call. Second of all, I have someone telling me not to take the call.
It's double scared.
Right. So at that time, I'm like, I got to do my own thing. I got to figure this out and get out from this job. Obviously, I got to do my 1 year commitment. But really, after I got my first deal, that catapulted my confidence. And I did one a couple weeks later, a few weeks after that. And the first 6 months I did 10. So I was like, wholesale flip. Dude. I just needed that confidence boost to launch.
How much money did you make on your very first wholesale?
So the first deal was a wholesale.
Okay. Wow.
Right. All yeah. Right. And I made about 19 grand. So the first deal that I made money on was the second deal that I got under contract, because the first deal that I got under contract, I was in the process of flipping. Then I got the second deal and just bought it for 50, I think, and then I sold it for 75. Just listed on the market after commissions made like 19.
Okay, but did you really make 9,500 because you had to give a check to Josh for 9,500?
Right. Yeah, I got to pay my dues. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. So okay, direct mail, getting some leads, going out on appointments, getting your feet under you. You have a mentor. What happened next?
I just continued to market, and I did probably, those 10 deals and a few more before I started getting into other marketing strategies, doing some online marketing, paper leads, stuff like that, and just continued to stay consistent with all those marketing, and then learning how to negotiate, learning different strategies within real estate, the creative finance. That stuff was fun to me. Like, I knew how to bring in the leads. Now it's like, how can I monetize each lead?
At what point there did you leave Josh Nix?
I want to say...
Because, you're handing out a ton of money, obviously.
Yeah. It was probably maybe 8 months, I want to say.
Okay.
And then we had a conversation that, I'm kind of doing a lot of deals now. I'd like to...
Was that awkward?
Like, a little bit, yeah. I remember, actually...
we got to break up now.
So the deal was I give him half of my wholesales.
Yeah.
So if I flip a property, I don't have to pay out 50%. So what was in my mind was like, can I double close this? And I remember, approaching him like, hey, I want to double close this deal. It was just 185 under contract. We had a buyer at 200. I was like, I just want to double close this. And we had a conversation. Like he basically said, it feels like I'm not realizing the value that he'd provide. And that kind of like, I was like, you're right. Like I wouldn't be where I am without that,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, and he left it up to me. He's like, whatever you want to do, whatever you think's right, it's fine with me. And I ended up paying it out because I 100% thought it was worth it.
Yeah. Huh. That's really interesting.
How much money did you pay him over that 10 months? Right? 8 months, however it was.
I don't know, but
If you had to
I've
guess.
paid him over six figures in interest.
Yeah.
I know that just for the hard money.
Yeah.
So I
Are
mean,
you still using them for hard money then?
not as much. No.
Yeah.
No, just bank financing typically. Yeah.
Wow, what a deal.
For both, I mean, arguably,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, where else was I going to get the money?
I mean,
I'm
not hating on you for paying it out. I mean, originally when you said that, I had this like look of, probably shocked my face. But then after I kind of realized it and thought about what people pay and I made that comment, but then it is a lot of work to mentor. He was the catalyst behind you. He was lifting you up.
You got to realize he's making a lot of money. His time's valuable.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so, yeah.
Yep.
And it wasn't like,
Interesting.
I get a lot of people reaching out to me like how to do this. And it's like, they're in such the beginning stages. It's like,
You don't know. They don't know what they don't know. at
Right.
that
So
point.
for me, like I already had some momentum. I had the foundation, for him to work with me is like, I was already generating leads. I knew the marketing in and of itself. To teach that is just a lot of hours if you want to do it right,
Yeah. Oh, this is so good, man. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. Now your life today looks like what? You have what type of properties, assets?
Yeah.
Like what's your day to day?
Yeah, we just got to 102 units. That includes that
Oh, man.
storage facility. So I like to tell people like it's around 75 because storage facility is kind of a cheat code. You can realistically get like 2 facilities and be at 1,000 units. So, I mean, 102 units, including that storage facility, which is, like I said, 35. Some multifamily, single family,
Now, what areas are you in? Small towns, cities?
mainly Lincoln and Columbus.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have a few left in Auburn and Peru, but we've sold a lot of those off.
Because logistically, that has to get tough as you're
Right. That's why we're selling off all the
different towns.
Auburn ones.
Okay.
Yeah. But I struck a deal in this Columbus package, and I already had a boots on the ground there. My wife's from Schuyler area, which is close, so we're down there quite a bit anyway.
Okay, I want to bring up a specific deal that I think I remember you were involved in. Let's talk about the 24 unit in Columbus.
Yeah. I closed on that December 31st, 2024. Seller had to close before the end of the year. We got it done.
Oh, so this is real recent.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so let's unwind this thing. How'd you find it?
Okay. Direct mail.
All right, so direct mail you mailed to a mom and pop owner of it, and this is in Columbus, Nebraska.
Columbus, yep.
Which is how far from Lincoln, Omaha area?
It's about an hour and 20 minutes from Lincoln.
Got
I
it.
live right outside of Lincoln. It's about 50 minutes from my house.
Okay,
Yep.
so 24 units, and how much was it?
$2,050,000.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, so in my head,
24 properties.
what was that? 85 a door, 90 a door,
Roughly, yeah. It consisted of 2 duplexes, 2 fourplexes, and 2 sixplexes.
Okay, so kind of a piece together multifamily package of 24 units. All right, and what did the rent roll look like, if you remember that?
Around 22,000
$22,000 a month.
Right.
Okay. And what did you feel it was under rented? Like, why was this a deal? Like, why did you decide to buy it?
Yeah, it was under rented, so I've already in the process of increasing the rents.
What are you guessing the rents were going to be after you raise them all?
I underwrote it at $975.
Okay,
Yeah,
and it was what?
probably the average.
800.
Average was about 800.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, slowly increasing those.
Well, we're just kind of digging into this. So, like, did you buy this on your own?
I did.
Okay, so did the banker that you were dealing with? How old were they? Do you think, if you had to guess?
40s.
Okay, so they're in their 40s and they're sitting across the desk from you, and you're like, "Oh, I'm Tucker Pinyan. I'm 24 years old, and I'm going to buy this 24 unit deal for $2 million." And were they like, I mean, so you bought it all on your own, like
Yeah.
you own that?
Yeah, and I thought I was going to have to
That's
ask.
crazy.
I thought I was going to have ask more banks. First one I approached said yes. So that just reaffirmed that, the numbers I was looking at was good, because the bank's not going to lend it if it's not a good deal. If it doesn't
Okay.
cash flow.
So, all right, so you closed it with a commercial bank.
Right. Are you talking about the deal structure?
Yeah. So I was just wondering, like, how much down did you have to put? Because
Zero.
in my head, Zero down.
Zero down. I got paid $50,000 to buy it.
All right, let's roll up our sleeves here and dig into this.
This is
how did this work?
Yeah, this is where I get excited about just deal structure. So like purchase price was $2,050,000. Just backtracking a little bit. The seller calls me on the letter. One of her first sentences, Tucker, I've got 24 units I need to sell, and I'm not financing any of it.
Okay, yeah, he'd probably been asked that like a million times.
Right. So fast forward, she ended up doing it, but we'll get to that. So
she ended up doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's my age, honestly. I mean, she had grandkids, she was older, and I don't know. It worked out. So yeah, purchase price was $2,050,000, and I structured it in a way that I knew that the duplexes were valued at a higher price per unit compared to the others. Nice duplexes, 3 bedrooms, have a garage. I knew that those would be valued at about $550,000. And I knew with that in mind, I could leverage $400,000 in loans off those.
Okay.
So I approached the seller and I said, I'm going to buy these duplexes separately. So I'll buy the 4 units and then I'll buy the 20 units in about 30 to 45 days. And I want to buy these duplexes for $350,000. And so we're under contract for $350,000 on the duplexes. I take out $400,000 in loans and private money, close on those in 7 days. I told her I'm going to close quickly. I'm going to buy these duplexes. And I did that, for 2 reasons. One, I wanted her to have confidence in me that I could close a deal and know that, I'm going to buy these. And number 2, if I buy these duplexes at this discount, she has to sell me the other 20 units. And if not, I get the heck of a deal on these duplexes, So that's why I wanted to separate it. I said, I'll buy these duplexes for $350,000 and I'll buy the rest for $1.7. So yeah, bought them private money, $400,000 in loans, and immediately same day I closed in 7 days, I contact a local commercial bank to refinance out my $400,000. I got those financed, and then on the 1.7, bank financed 1.325, seller carried 375.
That's crappy.
So I walked away with $50,000, and the reason it's not like I went out and bought some fancy car. 24 units, I wanted to have some cash, so it's like it's good to have $50,000 or so in a rental account.
And a buffer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the reason I did that. But
did you have anybody advise you on that, or did you come up with all this on your own?
I came up with it.
Nice.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really smart. So you bought one piece of that package and then you went back and bought the rest of it because you already showed that you were able to close. And that is, by the way, I do want to highlight that is very important. This is why commercial brokers a lot of times you see the same groups getting the best deals over and over again, right? You'll have commercial brokers, maybe they'll get a listing they know is coming and they'll shop it out to people they know are going to perform.
Right.
That goes such a long way. So anybody catching this that is maybe not all that experienced and they're trying to go out and acquire bigger deals, you have to prove your worth and say, I am going to do what I say I'm going to do. And it's going to lead to way more opportunities with brokers, sellers, all the above.
And her concern was valid. She knew how old I was. And that was one of her questions. Are you going to be able to get financing for this? I wasn't sure, but I figured it out.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's if I have to door knock every bank on earth, I'm going to get this done,
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Tucker, you mentioned the storage units, and that's something I'm super interested in. One of my goals this year is to get my first storage unit. I'm trying to unload some stuff so I can be in a better position to move on to it. But is there any advice that you have or any lessons you've learned with your first storage unit?
Yeah, I can't say that I could give you all that much advice as far as finding the unit. Another investor brought it to me.
Yep.
And I was excited about it. I think I've done a good job of implementing a system and automating it to a place where it's fairly easy to manage. Now, again, it's only 35 unit facility, so it's nothing too big, but it was a lot of upfront work finding that system and figuring out the best way to do it. But I feel like I've done a good job of it.
What were some of the first things that you did with the property?
Raise rents.
Raise rents.
Yeah.
Now, did it already have security, fencing?
No.
Did you do that also?
No, we're thinking about adding some cameras, but we haven't done any of that yet. My facility is really in sort of a residential neighborhood.
Yep.
It's not on a main highway, or it's not a huge facility either. So it's not a lot of eyes are on it, I guess.
Not much room to grow either?
Build onto the facility?
Yep.
No, there's no room for that on here. No.
Because the one thing I at least from talking to Brad Bader with Timber Creek Storage and Virtual, he's like, hey, I think his unit's 50 or 60 in it, so it's not much longer. But the first thing he did is he put security fence in, and then he put electronic password in, and then he added, he put all the doors in, and then he put a key lock code system on each one, so VAs take the call. The only way you can get a unit is through the VAs off their website, calling the phone number.
So truly offsite, completely.
Yeah.
I've done some of that, but there are sometimes I have to go on site just to change out a lock. But
I believe you even said that even the camera systems are watched by the VAs.
nice.
So when they had a squatter in one unit, it was the VAs that let them know. You talked to Brad about this more than I do.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked in our episode with Brandon Turner about when you're pivoting into a new strategy, what steps do you go through to basically find out what you don't know? You had a deal brought to you. Now, did you buy one or two at the same time? Were these separate deals that you bought?
Two buildings, one deal.
Got it. Okay. So it's like storage units. This is something I'm not familiar with, right? You're used to single family, smaller multifamily deals. You had storage units come across your desk. You said you were excited about it, but like, how do you know what to do after that point? Like, walk us through maybe the steps you take. You said, okay, storage units, what next?
Right. That's always the question is like, do I break into this industry and spend so much time learning how to do it? Or do I keep doing what I'm doing, which is working, and just single family and the stuff that I'm already doing?
Mm-hmm.
It's just through a lot of YouTube and, AJ Osborne, I'm sure, just watching a lot of his content. In all my businesses, I try to implement a software that automates a majority of the legwork. I've done that with the dumpster business. I've done that with, the CRM for real estate. So I looked for the best one. I'm like, if I can spend as much money as I can in a nice system, even if it's a lot of, more money up front, like I'm going to invest that because I know it's going to save me on my legwork. So I found that. It's called like Tenant Inc. And we use that.
Does it matter how many units you have? Like sometimes when you go with the best software,
it doesn't make sense unless you have 100 units or 200 or whatever.
Right. In this case, no, but they did have a minimum. I think it's $200 a month. And then most of the softwares have like an insurance plan, and they want you to get on that insurance plan because they get a cut of the tenant protection plan. So that's how they make money too.
Okay. Now, all right. So you buy this deal, a couple different buildings of storage units, and you've done YouTube University. You are starting to implement software systems processes to kind of modernize things a little bit and take some of the heavy lifting off of your plate on the day-to-day. What are some crazy things that you've seen since you've owned these storage units? Like, have you had any storage wars situations where there's naked people in one of the units, or talk about that? Like, what are some of the darker aspects of owning storage?
Yeah, I haven't owned it all that long, 8 months maybe, but in that time, I had a tenant move in. And then about 4 days later, someone hooked a chain to the front of the door and then the back of their car and ripped the door off. They knew that tenant and they knew the stuff they were storing in there, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted to get those things. So I had to replace the door on that occasion. But that's probably the craziest thing. The facility.
I had that happen to me.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was crazy.
I had like a U-Haul storage facility.
Like, I guess they didn't have a grinder to just cut the lock. Do you have to tear off the door?
The crazy part is they never told me. And when I showed up and the door's gone and my stuff is just sitting there exposed. And this is a nice facility. With security.
You were the renter. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
I was the renter.
Okay.
I show up. This is 2 decades ago now. Okay. I show up and there happens to be somebody next to me in the storage unit, and they go, "I was wondering whose stuff that is." I go, "How long has it been like this?" And he goes, "Probably 2 months." And so I went to management, and they're like, "Well, we're brand new. We just bought it, and this is what it looked like when we took over. We didn't know what the story was."
And they didn't have security cameras 2 decades ago, or?
Well, there was security cameras, but the owner said they go, "I guarantee it was the previous owners. They were watching people, and I guarantee they're the ones that tore the door off."
Oh my goodness!
Wow,
that's crazy.
2 months, never got a phone call.
My
whole house was in there.
I was really into there. I don't know if it's still on, but there used to be a show. It was like on Bravo or TLC or something called Storage Wars.
I love that.
I did too. I used to.
Yep.
He had the hat. That was a fun show to watch. I was just curious if you had any situations like that. Now, have you actually gone and cut locks off and auction stuff?
I have not. No.
Okay, so that hasn't happened.
Can you let us know when you do it? So
yes.
Yeah.
We'll do a live.
Do you want
episode.
a bid? You want to do a bid?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, we go partners.
Yes.
Can we dress up and bring a film crew up?
Okay, you would say that. Okay, so now you've owned this facility for 8 months. Is this the way? Or is this just like, this is a one-off and I bought storage units because they happen to come to me in a deal? Or are you like, you know what? I really like these. I'm going to buy some more.
I do like storage units. And I've searched for them a little bit. I haven't gone down the path of marketing specifically for storage units. But honestly, the way I buy deals is like people bring deals to me or an opportunity comes. And if I can structure it 0 down and it still cash flows and I have, the ability to manage it, like I'm typically going to buy it. I mean, someone says, what's your buy box? I guess like mine isn't specific property. It's more like if I can get this and be in it with
terms.
Yeah. Without my own money, I'm going to buy it.
So what were the terms on this place?
Well, this one was just an improvement. Buy it with short-term financing, improve it, and refinance out.
Do you buy it with hard money then?
Well, I bought it with bank financing, and I got a construction line of credit.
Okay.
Yeah, because the bank wanted 20% on the purchase, and then I improved it, and then I was going to refinance out all of my private investor and the bank financing. Really, actually, I thought about selling it because I was talking to a couple brokers, and the value was way more than I thought. I think I was expecting like around 485 or something, and then people were.
What did you buy it for?
370, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 370. There was some credits in there for the roof, but yeah, about 370.
Okay, so 370 for how many units?
35.
Okay, so 35. Now, were these big bays?
Some of them are 20 by 30s. So
those are real big.
Right. There's 5 20 by 30s, 4 20 by 20s, 18 10 by 20s, and 8 10 by 10s.
That is not common.
Does that equal 35?
I don't, whatever. Yes. What real estate radio math. Okay. So it's so hard to kind of like wrap your mind around when everybody, well, not everybody, but me in my head, everybody talks about what's the cost per unit all the time, right? Like with multifamily, that's the easiest way to kind of like do quick napkin math. With storage, it's not really that way because a unit doesn't always equal a unit, because they could be 4 by 6 or whatever. Because there's some that are really small out there and you can just rent them for a few bucks a month. And others that are like contractor bays where people can store like boats and vehicles and like a whole bunch of tools and all that. So this sounds like these were a pretty big, pretty large units that you got into, right?
Yeah. Majority of them are those 10 by 20s, which the most common are the 10 by 20s across facilities that you see, I feel like.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then 20 by 30s were the larger ones. And I actually, that's who rents those is like you said, the contractors, or there's some really who, when I bought it, tenants have been there 20 and 30 years and they're still there. And they haven't been in the unit in 10 years.
You're like, this is the first time the rent's been raised in 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I raised it from about 150 on those large units to 300 and just
substantial raise.
Right. Yeah. Which is market.
Dang.
Yeah. And they stay there. And like, I wouldn't want to clean it out either. I'd probably pay the 300. It's just packed to the ceiling, So.
I would too, for sure. Yeah. Like they're probably like, well, we got away with that for X number of years without rent raises. Like we'll just stay.
Because they say, I mean, from what I've been learning is when it comes to rents, you should be raising the rent, on average 10 to 15% to a point where you have 80% occupancy. Then you have some openings to be able to get new renters in. And then with an ultimate goal of having somewhere, once you have about a 10% vacancy consistently, you know that your pricing is right.
Okay. I never did that research. I was just like, I need to be at this income for the bank to loan me this. So that's what I needed to be at.
Because if you're turning down business, then you're not making new business, getting those higher rents.
But I do like the approach of like you're approaching this from a financial statement perspective and you're saying, okay, what's my monthly nut? What do I need to make to pay debt service, operating expenses and all that? Does it pencil out where I can cover that and still make a little bit of profit? And this will make sense. I mean, it sounds like that's kind of the approach,
right,
in acquisitions. Now, you mentioned as an aside, dumpster business and Rocket Rolloffs.
That's right.
Is that the name of it?
Right.
All right. What's that all about? How did you get into that? Is it profitable? Like, tell us about this business a little bit. We haven't had, I think, maybe a couple of guests on that have been involved in that type of business, but like why and how and what?
I actually started the business earlier than I thought I was.
Okay.
So, when you're doing projects, you're using a lot of dumpsters, you have the idea. So I remember having the idea, and I'm big on internet marketing, domain authority. I want to create a brand, that sort of thing. And so when I thought of the name, what I was going to call it, I immediately bought the domain. Surprised the .com was available for a reasonable price.
Great name, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. The alliteration. I mean, I thought it was a great place. So I bought the domain and I thought I'm going to start this in a few years, but at least I'll have some like domain authority and some Google presence. Mm-hmm. So I decided to start a Google My Business as well. Not to generate leads or anything, just to have it up. And then when we're ready to launch, like it would already have some momentum behind it.
Yeah, because anybody that's going to Google, I need a dumpster, like dumpsters, Lincoln, Nebraska, you want to rank, right? You want to be up there. And if you don't have a Google My Business page, people are probably going to go to the next one, right?
And yeah, where would anyone else look in my mind? That was my thought process. If you need a dumpster rental, unless you know a family friend, the only place that I know to look is Google.
Yeah.
And so I did some research on that in my local market too, and no one was running Google ads. And so that was an indicator too that I could have a low cost per lead. I could be the only one in this market running Google ads at the time. So, but I still, I thought this is a couple years down the road, but I threw it up, and then we started getting calls. And then I'm just telling people at this point, we're booked out. Thanks for calling, bye. Because obviously we don't have any equipment or anything. So after a couple months of that, I approached my dad and I was like, I'm getting these calls. And he kind of said, well, why don't we just try it? And we started off small, 1 truck, 8 dumpsters. And my thought process was I can service some of my own flips. I know the other flippers in town. At the bare minimum, we'll just service these people, and it'll just be drive a truck a couple days a week. And my dad was going to do that. And this will be a fun side business.
Did you have to get a CDL license?
No, we got under CDL.
Oh, okay. Yep. So the truck was small enough, you didn't have to get a specialized license for it.
It's under 26,000 pounds.
And no air brakes.
It does have air brakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that a requirement? If it has air brakes, you have to have...
I don't know.
Okay.
Good question.
Hey, ignorance is bliss, man. Just continue on.
No, so we decided to start the business, right? And so we're humming along, and it just blew up a lot quicker than we initially anticipated or thought.
Why do you think that? Just high demand, or do you think it was the Google ads, or...
A lot of things that I thought in the beginning, no one had really. I mean, these are kind of older generation.
Yeah.
They have the roll-off business for years and years. They don't know how to do internet marketing or that sort of thing. And I saw websites were they didn't look good. I thought I could really break in through Google ads and, build an SEO over time. So yeah, from there, it's just, I would say we're doing well. I mean, I wouldn't say it's blown up, but I think we're in our 3rd full year. 2025 is going to be our 3rd full year. And I remember in 2024, we had bought a few more cans, but at the beginning of the year, it was going well. And I kind of had a conversation with my dad, and we kind of said, if we can get $200,000 in revenue, that'll be good. And I think that's a realistic goal, and then halfway through the year, we're we're going to blow this out of the water. We ended 2024 with a little over 350 just in revenue.
And how many dumpsters?
At that time it was about 25. So we just bought another truck and 25 more. So we're up, 2 trucks, 50 cans. And I think we'll, be over 500K 2025.
What are the operating expenses in that type of business?
So net, we'd shoot for 30%. Are you asking specifically payroll?
Yeah. So, I was just wondering. Okay, so you said $500,000 for gross. Yep. Okay, yep. What do you net out of that?
About 30%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We got to pay a driver. We have a full-time driver.
Yep. So 150K is your NOI out of that after you net out everything.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to go on the books to dial it in.
No. This is great. I mean, this is.
And then I get all my dumpsters for free.
Yeah.
All my trash.
Which is a huge expense, especially if you're buying a lot of houses.
Listen, I want to call out something. You brought this up as an afterthought, and you have a business that nets $150,000 to the owners. Mm-hmm. Is it you and your dad are partners in this?
Yep. 50-50. Yep.
Okay. What? 20, dude.
I know.
I'm looking at you, man. I'm 24. This was not on my radar at all. Anywhere close to it. 24 years old, and you're poo-pooing a business that nets you 150K. That is insane.
Yeah.
Why not double down on that or something else?
That's a good thought. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a good friend of mine. He neighbor, good friend, known him for probably 20 years. His name's Terry. He owned a business that he bought. So he flips houses. He's got rentals and all that. And he does roofing, and he's kind of sounds like you. I mean, he's just, he's capitalizing on opportunities that come his way, and he's a business guy, and he can make sense out of it. He happened to, what was the deal? He was flipping a house, and he happened to call a guy that had some cheap dumpsters, and they were 10-yarders, 12-yarders. They're smaller, right? Mm-hmm. And had the guy come out, and the guy's like, yeah, I don't know. And Terry was asking him questions. He's like, how'd you get started in this? What was the deal? And the guy's like, actually, it's kind of just getting in the way. I think he was moving out of town or something. And he's like, actually, I'm kind of kicking around selling it. Terry's like, what would you sell it for? How many containers do you have, et cetera? I want to say he had 20. He had about 20 boxes. You call them bins. Is that what you
Cans,
call them?
really?
Cans.
Yeah.
Cans. So Terry ended up buying that business, the whole thing. It was called It's Got to Go. That's what it was called. He bought the whole business for $40K, and it came with a truck and 20 dumpsters, and that was about it.
Okay.
He ended up growing that, and like Terry ended up hiring like a full-time welder to do basically like repair work and fabricate new cans and all that. And he grew it to like, he had 40-yard dumpsters, and then he got contracts for doing the flood cleanups and all that stuff. Before long, he had like multiple trucks and drivers, and he's managing this whole business. And like he gave his wife, he called it the bat phone. He's like, here, take the bat phone. She was the dispatcher. Yeah. And he's paying her, out of the family budget, he's paying her like $40K to answer the phone and schedule stuff. And I ended up, I was like super interested in that because I'm tired of paying all these dumpster fees all the time. Right. I'm like, God, there's $400 here, $300 there. And then I was like, well, do you ever want to sell this? And he finally, like 2 years ago, he's like, hey, I'm going to sell this. Are you interested? And I'm like, what are the numbers? And then it was like $2 million is what he wanted for it. And, but I mean, the numbers proved it out. I think he ended up selling it for 1.5, but he like made a boatload of money on that business. And he was talking about buying a landfill and like all this stuff. Like he was going to go like all in on it and just, but then he was just like, you know what? I just want to kind of like chill out and go boating. But that's so cool, man. Not a lot of people end up, mentioning on the side that they make 150K off of a business.
Yeah. Like, it's been
you need to give yourself a reality check here once in a while, man. Like this is pretty impressive what you're describing.
How much time are you putting into this?
Not a lot. So as I mentioned before, I find a software, the best one that I can find for that industry, and figure out how to automate most of the day-to-day. So like I probably put about 3 hours a week into that business. Now my dad, he's the dispatcher, so he puts a lot more in.
He has the bat phone.
Yeah. Well, we actually have a CSR too. They answer the call, customer service representative. So they, book most of the calls online just through our software. And then our driver has an app. He knows the schedule for the day, wakes up.
He's like an Uber driver.
Yeah.
Like here's where I'm going. Here's what I'm picking up.
Yeah. Super simple. It's like the system does everything. So it has our cans all pinned, and we know where everyone is and who has a pickup this day. And yeah.
You have to put trackers in all the bins too?
We don't. We have pin on them, and then whenever we drop them off, we say this pin is there, and then we know where all our cans are.
Huh.
Yeah.
So you pin the Pinyan. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So anybody that's listened to this whole episode so far would think that like life is golden and like Tucker Pinyan's encountered no challenges, has never done anything wrong. Seems like you're the golden boy here. Do you have anything out of all this stuff you've done that hasn't gone according to plan? Because we have a section that we lovingly call Failing Forward, where, as the name suggests, something didn't go according to plan. You learned some lessons along the way. Anything like that?
Yeah. I flipped a house. It's coming up right about a year ago around this time. It was a big project. The house was condemned. All utilities cut off when we bought it. Biggest project I think we've done. I mean, we bought it for 85, put about 130 grand into it. Just the exterior skeleton was really all that was remaining.
You're speaking Ted's language here.
Yeah. It took about 22 roll-offs out of this place. Yeah. The whole house upstairs and downstairs was packed, and the floor was caved in on the
from all the weight,
right? Because a water pipe had burst, and then all the stuff was soaked, and then the load wall in the basement gave in. So it was a big project, but all things considered, went relatively smoothly. We worked with the city; they had a few hoops we had to jump through. All things considered, went relatively according to plan compared to other projects. But yeah, finished the project, listed it on the market, get multiple offers over asking, except one to close like May 31st of last year. And everything's going to plan. We're in escrow. They have their inspections. They have all their walkthroughs, whatever the case. And then a few days after closing, the buyer's agent reaches out and says that the buyer has noticed some damp carpet along the east wall.
Uh-oh.
And, just like a few inches by a few feet of, it looks like water's coming in through the outside. And of course it was raining a ton during this period, which didn't help, but I wanted to fix the issue. So I, offer like, what can I do? I'm going to send guys over there. We're going to regrade the outside on that wall, so water doesn't, go in, and hopefully that fixes the issue. So we did that. And then a couple weeks after that, I had heard that he was still dealing with these issues. And so I decide to email the buyer directly just to lay it all out. Hey, we did this house top to bottom. I'm sorry that you're dealing with this issues. This was not my intent. Whatever I have to do, let me know what I have to
I want to make it right.
I want to make this right. I don't want you to have a bad experience. I don't want to, have a bad reputation throughout town. And he was receptive to it. Like, thank you, Tucker. It's been a tough couple of weeks. I appreciate your willingness to help. So that was that.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Famous last words.
Right. Yeah. And then didn't hear anything. 4 weeks later, I get a big yellow envelope in the mail from an attorney.
Boy.
Attorney's office. And it basically said pay X amount or, we're filing lawsuit. We are confident Mr. Pinyan knew about water intrusion when selling this house, which was tough because I didn't. And I'm there maybe once every 2 weeks. The people that are there weeks at a time, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, so I go back and ask them, like, have you ever seen any water intrusion? No, we didn't see anything. Not to mention they did a full home inspection. They did their final walkthrough. Like none of this has ever, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. But yeah, that was tough to get that. And it was pay a certain amount. And when I reached out to my attorney, it was just the start of it. He said, like, they're going to want a lot more. They're just seeing if you pay this right off the bat. And this, one of the first things he said, this law firm is known throughout town. They're going to make it very, very difficult for you. It shows a lot to the opposing client that they chose this law firm because they're going to be out to squeeze as much as they can. So,
oh boy,
yeah, that was tough.
So your stress level just spiked.
Yeah. But I remember getting a letter like within 15 minutes. Like I want to solve problems. Like I had my attorney on the phone within 15 minutes. Like how do I get in front of this and what can I do to fix this? So, yeah, they did asking for a lot more. It was about $55,000 in invoices. They wanted everything. Rock around the house, take the dirt around, vapor barrier on the exterior foundation. They wanted it right, which again, it was frustrating for me because I tried to help in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they still go to an attorney. But so my attorney basically said, we have two options. You can, you probably have a likelihood of winning this. Do you want to spend the next 2 to 3 years of your life
in litigation?
Attorney's fees. Or do you want to try and negotiate a settlement? Like we can, and in my mind, like I have a lot going on. I want to just get out from under this. But it's tough too because like, why do I want to pay a settlement for something I didn't think I knew about? But I am willing to fix the issue. Like I want to pay contractors, do what it needs to get fixed. But it was way more than I thought. We negotiated it down to about $25,000, so I had to pay that out. But
did you make any money on the deal?
Oh yeah.
So you did okay,
right? We paid 85. We put about 130 into it, and we sold it for 366. So we did good on the deal, but it was just frustrating.
Yeah,
And so what I learned from it, I'd say, just how to bounce back. I feel like our business has like gone in a really great direction since then. Like I've bounced back, and that wasn't too much of a punch to the gut. Like I was able to just, it's like almost when things are going too good, I'm like, I'm coasting right now. And then a hurdle comes and I'm like, let's go. Like,
game on.
Right. That's how my mentality is. So it's like, I feel like I've really excelled since that happened.
Good for you, man. Lawsuits are not fun. They're scary to get that letter, especially. I've been involved in a few, and they're like it's never fun to get that attorney letter in the mail. It's never. Nobody gives you a heads up either. It's the equivalent of somebody knocking on your door and being like, "Give me $55,000 right now," and you're just like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
With all the dumpster companies, the flips and whatnot, what's like the craziest thing you've ever seen at a house or found at a house or just a general wild story to tell?
Well, I have a lot of the hoarder stories and stuff like that, but I'd like to tell a story about like a deed and a title of a house that I bought on actually auction.com.
Okay.
I think it's interesting. So again, an online auction, we bid online. This house was in Schuyler. And again, my dad's the auction.com fanatic. So he tells me about, there's this house in Schuyler. My wife's from Schuyler. I was interested in it. And so opening bid was $17,000. And I thought, why not bid on it? Again, small town, which seems to be where I get most of these auction.com properties in the smaller towns.
Yep.
And so, opening bid, we won it $17,000, and they mail us the deed, say, go file it at the courthouse. That's how it works, I guess. So get the deed in the mail, go to the courthouse, file it, and then drive to the house. And I wasn't sure if someone was living there. I thought potentially, there was some junk cars in the yard, just wasn't sure. But sure enough, open the door, and a gentleman's living in there, prior owner, I guess now. And we break the news to him.
Oh, he had no idea.
No idea. According to him. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Did he seem surprised?
No, that was like the craziest thing ever. He's like, oh, okay. Like I was like, do you know kind of the circumstances right now? But we told him like this house was on auction and we are the new owners. And he essentially was like, okay, I mean, what do I do now? Like then he says, can I buy it back? And I was like, I haven't really thought about it. Like, what are you thinking? And he's like, will you take 40 for it? And I was like, yeah, I'll take 40, sure. Like I was like, this is the best deal ever. I want to get this done same day. So I Google local attorney in Schuyler, walk into the office, and I asked them, can you write up a deed to this gentleman here and just transfer the deed to his name? And they're like, $100, come back in an hour. So I, go grab some lunch, go back, get the deed, and then I call, the gentleman and say, meet me at the bank with a cashier's check. And that's how we did it. We exchanged the cashier's check for the deed.
This actually worked?
This happened. Yeah.
I have never in my life heard of a story like this. Have you?
No, this is great.
It was crazy. And so,
you basically wholetailed it to the owner, like 24 hours ago owner.
Yeah. And
I wonder what he owed on it originally.
No, that's the deal. His last known mortgage balance was $40,000, which is why he wanted to pay it off there. So I don't know if the bank was like,
just wrote it off.
Right. We'll take 17. That was their minimum bid. And we were the only bidders. So that's what was crazy about it.
What in the hell? Like that is, oh man, that is such a good story.
So so small town, I look across the street and I say, there's the courthouse. Go file your deed. This is your house. Said and done deal. A few months later, we get a tax statement in the mail, which I thought was weird because we don't own the house. And so I call him up and I was like, did you file that deed? I haven't gotten around to it. And I'm similar to like when we initially knocked on the door, like, do you kind of know the circumstances, right? Like we still own the house. He's like, yeah, I can't find it. And this, that, and the other. And
after he paid you the $40K,
right,
you're done. It's done.
This is months later. And
you're like, bro, walk across the street right now. Like, what are you doing?
So God. And I was like, well, we just got this tax statement. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll go get them paid. And I'm like, you might want to file
like right now. Like
you might want to file the deed before you pay the taxes. So I don't know. I think I still own it. I'm not for sure.
Because you're like, hey, it's on you, bro.
Yeah, I mean, if it goes to a tax lien, because he does. I mean, I'm assuming he paid the taxes.
Is he older?
He was older, yeah.
So if he dies,
and that was my thought too. Like, does he not have any family? Is he just like
dementia? Something happens. He passes.
Is he just done with it?
Guess what happens?
Right. I mean,
wow. This is crazy.
That is a crazy story.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to ask this question again, and I'm really glad you said that story. What's the craziest thing you've ever found in the house?
Probably have to be a property in Columbus where the plumbing didn't work. We flipped the house. Was a probably 6-month process. After we flipped it and listed it, we decided to look in the back shed, which we didn't do the entire time, and that's where they were storing their feces and just a lot of bottles and basically mason jars. And,
so that was the outhouse.
Yeah, essentially.
The outhouse.
Because when I bought it, I was like, "There's no way that they're using this plumbing. Like, where are they going right now?" Yeah, there's a few of them. But
wait. Were they putting it in anything, or were they just going
mason
in
jars? You said, right?
Yeah, it was like a bunch of them filled with feces. Yeah.
Canning jars.
Oh my God.
Saving it for the future.
Wow.
Did you see that post I tagged you on Facebook this morning? Or last night?
No.
So there's somebody walking through a hoard and they had
a hoard?
A hoard house.
Hoarder house.
Yeah, hoarder house, hoard. Anyway, so they had big water bottles and the whole house was full of
bottles. I did see that. Yeah.
And I walked one of those houses. It was a wholesaler lead and I was taking a look at it. And it was like everything was Mountain Dew bottles full of piss.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
and I mean, it was.
Why is it always Mountain Dew?
I've
had the same thing happen, and it's like always Mountain Dew. Always. 2 liters of Mountain Dew.
Yeah, 3 bedrooms completely full of Mountain Dew bottles.
Oh, that was insane.
It was just like the house though in that video. And then the toilets were like,
oh jeez,
3 feet high poop outside the toilet, and it's like, what are they standing on?
Yeah, how do you even get
they
up there?
Keep on stacking it that high.
Do you think they just put it in a thing and dumped it on top?
Right.
Like that's what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
Piled it on top.
I guess what I was picturing is them just getting higher and higher on there. But
I'm picturing, like, you go to those Euro places and they shave off the meat. They've got the gigantic pile of meat, and they just shave off the sides.
Yes.
That's what I'm picturing.
And then the crazy part is, I was talking to the neighbor, and like, how was it inside? And I'm like, this is the worst I've ever. And he is like, just so you know, the city mandatory made them clean that whole house out like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And they put all new furnace, water heater in.
Wow.
Got everything functioning. I'm like, all this happened in 3 years. And once they started cleaning it out, it's like, yeah, it looks brand new underneath all this stuff.
It's insane.
So Tucker, what's next for you? Like, what's on the horizon? I mean, with your 20 years of experience that you've had in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I'm really focusing on selling my houses, all of the houses owner finance, all the single family. So selling them on like a wrap note. So I'll essentially burr them, refinance into 30-year fixed, DSCR loan, and then there's a little bit of a process to do that. And then I'll assign we'll deed the property into trust. I'll assign interest to an end buyer, and then have a note with an end buyer.
And you'll have a spread on that, probably make an initial upfront payment that they'll make.
Right. The upfront payment's important because that's a lot of the dilemma. Like I feel like a lot of people want to keep rentals, but then you're only limited to 80% of the value. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you flip it, you can capture that value.
You can recapitalize, basically all the money you had into it. So that's really smart, but you do lose, right, the tax benefits of owning rental properties if you go that route. If you're owner financing and you don't actually own it, you're just the bank. Yeah.
Actually, investors I talk to say they do capture depreciation. I mean, so we're deeding the property into a trust. So it's 123 Main Street Trust for every property.
Yep.
I'm a beneficiary of the trust. I'm assigning my beneficial interest to the end buyer, and I have a lien on their beneficial interest to whereas they don't pay, I reclaim the beneficial interest and then get them out.
Ted, have you ever met a 24-year-old that knows the stuff that's coming out of this guy's mouth?
I mean, I've only talked to one person that's ever even talked about that specifically, and that was Jeremy Murray when we had him on.
Yeah. Man, I'm so impressed. This is gold. Man, I could keep talking to you for hours, honestly, but we do want to be mindful of time here. So we have one last section that we call the OT with Owen and Ted, where we've got some questions we're going to fire at you and see what you have to say, Mr. Pinyan. First one for you. All right. There's a book marinating in your head. What are you going to write it about? And if there's a title that you got in mind, that'd be awesome too. So I can go out and steal a domain name.
All right. Yeah. So I think it'd be about taking action. I feel like there's two groups of people. There's people that watch one YouTube video and then they're ready to go do a real estate deal or flip a house. Mm-hmm. And then there's analysis paralysis for years and years before they never do a deal. And so I feel like I've been good at acquiring the required information to be able to just hit the ground and running and either do business or a new real estate deal. So yeah, I don't have a lot about what the content would be, but it would probably be called Ready Enough. Just basically telling people like, this is all you need. You don't need to spend years and years. You need this information to either start a business or do a real estate deal and then like hit the ground running. I feel like I've done that in all my businesses, and that's why I've been able to do a broad range of things.
But Tucker, there's no good deals the last 2 years. What are you talking about?
Owner finance them.
I really like that because I was thinking about all the people I know and the action takers and the ones that are basically like professional students where they just want to learn the next thing and the next thing and listen to the next podcast, the next YouTube video, and then they'll be ready. And there's others that are like, I don't know really what I'm doing. I have a baseline. I go out and do it. I think there's a famous person in here that probably has some good sound bites, but there's like a saying where what is it? I think might have been Kevin O'Leary with Shark Tank. Maybe I'm misquoting. Maybe it was Abraham Lincoln. But they're like, as soon as I know 70% of the information about it, that's enough for me to make a decision. And it's never like you're never going to get to 100% ever.
Right. It's never going to be perfect.
Yeah. Yep. So done is better than perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. I like it.
We are on the Tucker Pinyan podcast show. You can interview anyone in the world today. Doesn't have to be real estate related, but they do have to be alive. Who is it? What's one question you want to ask?
Yeah, so I would do Barron Trump. I feel like he's like an observer. I'm kind of like that. I like to watch people and how they act. And I feel like it'd be like, how many words has this kid said publicly over the years? Like, not a lot.
No.
And it'd be good to just see growing up his perspective on his father. And I feel like that just asking him, like, what was it like growing up? what did you think about just your father and all he's done? I just feel like getting his perspective and worldview on his father would be really interesting.
That's first time we've ever heard that. That's a great answer. Yeah.
He has been a little more vocal on social media.
Yes. Okay.
Did you see that video when he's next to Elon Musk during the inauguration? Elon's like going crazy, like got his hands up in the air, and he's just like
awkwardly looking at him.
Yeah.
Speaking of social media, I do want to call out something. Like, I remember it was either right before or right after you and I had coffee for the first time several years ago, and you were doing some social media content. So you were making videos. I remember specifically you had one of those little tiny fuzzy gray microphone covers, and you would attach them to various tools.
Right.
I remember seeing you with a hammer, and you had a mic attached to the top of it, and you were like holding it in your contractor's face, interviewing them. Did I get this right?
Yeah, that's right.
Where did you get that idea? I was like, that is freaking. And the funny part is, you were so serious a couple of times where you're like, you know, you're asking a serious question and then you're holding the hammer over to your contractor to talk. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny. Like, did you get that idea from somebody or did you?
No, I mean, the microphone was magnetic. So my thought was, anything I can stick this to, I'm going to try it.
It's so funny. Like, do you still do that?
I mean, I haven't in a while, but
yeah,
I should.
You should follow him and anybody that's listening to this. Follow what's your handle on Instagram?
Just Tucker Pinyan.
Tucker Pinyan. Follow him on Instagram because like there's some hilarious clips on there where like he's attaching stuff to various tools. Anyway, good funny stuff. All right, next question for you, Tucker. So it's serious. You're way older than 24 because you're about to approach the big sleep, and somebody's going to deliver your eulogy. What do you think they're going to say about you, and who do you think might it be?
Yeah, so for me, it'd be my brother. He is very outspoken. He loves giving speeches. He's very charismatic, and so it'd be my brother Tanner. And I would hope that he'd say that I approached every business and everything in my life with 100% all-in mindset. I don't want to get to the end of my life and have things that I wish I had done, or same thing when I hit my head on the pillow at night. Like, I want to feel accomplished. Like, I want to be able to have, be like, I attacked this day with everything I had. I have no ounce of energy left. And that's how I want to live my life. And so I'd hope he would describe me in that way.
Sounds like you're living your life like that right now. Does Tanner work in your businesses now, or what's he do?
Yeah, he's a realtor, so yeah, he sells my houses. Yeah.
Okay.
When I sell them on the market.
Yeah, I'm thinking of
another family collab.
The immortal Deadpool said it best when he said maximum effort. That's the Tucker Pinyan way. I like it.
Okay, so you can shout out any mentor that you've had in your life. If you're looking at them right now and they're listening to you, who is it and what do you want to say to them?
Yeah, it's my high school basketball coach, freshman and sophomore year. He was my coach. His name is Garth Glissman. Probably the most hardworking, genuine, authentic guy I have ever known. Just for instance, he was an attorney in Omaha while being our basketball coach in Lincoln. So he'd work his 9 to 5, drive to Lincoln, practice with us from 6 to 9. We never really ended before 9:30, but this dude was a grinder. And like when he enters the gym, the energy changes and you can feel that. And he genuinely cares about your success. And then not only that, after practice, oftentimes he'd drive back to Omaha, grind a couple more hours at the law firm. And he's a successful guy now. Like I remember the reason he didn't coach all 4 years is because he left after my sophomore year to get a position in the NBA. So that's like a pretty big jump. And
wow.
Yeah. Just he's that type of guy. Like they found him on LinkedIn, flew him over there for an interview, and he took that job and worked there for 6 years. And now he's like the associate commissioner of the SEC, I believe. But we're still in touch to this day, and like he'll give you the time of day. That's the type of guy he is.
That is really, really cool. Okay. How can our listeners support you? You already mentioned Tucker Pinyan as your Instagram handle. Anything you're looking for right now in your business? Like you talked about kind of like future growth plans. You're obviously an all-in type of guy. What's the best way to reach you? Anything you're looking for?
Yeah, so that's just it. The Instagram, Tucker Pinyan, that's probably the easiest way to reach me. I'm always looking for other investors, I've paid my private investors over $250,000 since I've been doing this in interest alone. And so I think that's a pretty good thing to look at. And so I'm always looking for more capital.
What's a good private lender situation that would work for you?
Yeah, ideally sub 12% or
Okay.
0. I've done a lot of seller finance deals at just principal only payments, but that's not too likely. It's not more of the seasoned investors are going to be around that 12%, which is, typically what I like to pay direct to the investor.
Okay. Awesome.
And Tucker, thank you so much. The content has just been plentiful. I mean, we just
Plentiful.
it really has. We just hit so many things. It's been a while since we've done a 2-hour podcast, so I always know that if we're hitting that 2-hour mark, that we're just rolling, and I love that. So love your story. Appreciate you coming out in person, which we do. Always enjoy having a drink with the person we're talking to, and it's great seeing you grow. I mean, we just ran past each other a few times back in the day, but just to see your successes that you've had since then is just it's astonishing, man. And
Appreciate it.
I can't imagine where you're going to be 5 years from now.
No kidding.
It's just awesome.
Yeah.
But with that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of Rio Radio, Aiden Bear, and Ted Kosh, I'm Owen Dashner, and I've been listening to Tucker, the 50-year-old investor strategies operating in a 24-year-old body. Pinyan.
Sign off.
I do want to mention that your beard that you're rocking today is pretty much what Ted was aspiring to, because he had a beard going for St. Patty's Day and dyed it all orange.
Okay.
Just it looked pretty much just like you.
Nice.
It's my favorite day.
With less gray. You have. Okay.
Hey, when it was orange, you couldn't see the gray, Owen.